Obey or be killed. You are a regular student attending school when all of a sudden you receive a message. Within the message are orders that students must carry out. If you fail to do so, it results in a gruesome death. These messages get sent out every 24 hours until the game is finished. There's only one problem. How does the game end? What would you do and how would you react? In this video, I'm going to break down the mistakes made, explain what you should do, and how to survive in King's Game. The story starts out with our main protagonist, Nobuaki Kanazawa, receiving a mysterious text message in the middle of the night from someone known as the King. The message states, "This is the King's Game, in which your entire class is participating. The King's commands are absolute, so please fulfill them within 24 hours. You will not be able to withdraw mid-game." Thinking it's just some sort of prank, Nobuaki goes to sleep, only to realize that the next day, everyone in the class has also received the same mail. At this point, I wouldn't be too worried. It could all be some elaborate prank created by one of the students and shouldn't be too harmful. As Nobuaki enters the classroom, all the students are riled up about the King's messages. Student number 19, Nakao Minako, and student number 4, Inui Hirofumi, must kiss. After being pressured by other classmates, they end up kissing and a message gets sent out to the class. Obedience confirmed. All is sailing smoothly. However, the problem occurs when the second round of messages gets sent. Satomi, refusing to come to class after seeing the message, stays at home unbeknownst of the situation that is about to occur. 5 minutes before midnight, a warning message is sent out. Then 60 seconds, until finally the clock ticks midnight. The message reads, "Since you have not carried out the King's command, I sentence you to hang by the neck, student number 18 and student number 3. Feeling ignorant, Nobuaki closes the phone and goes to sleep. The next day, Satomi and Hideki don't show up to class, and the teacher announces to everyone that they are dead. They both committed suicide by hanging. Alright, now the red flags are going off. There is too much going on for all this to be a coincidence. If I were in the class, I'd be doing whatever I could to obey the messages. I would also be eyeing suspicious classmates to see if they have any connection to the King." The next message arrives, ordering 2 classmates to have sex with each other. The 2 classmates fulfill the task and the message now reads, "Obedience is confirmed." But a new problem has just arisen. The incoming message writes, "Number 30, Yahiro Shota can give out any order." Yahiro, the boyfriend of Misaki, the girl that was just forced to have sex, has gone ape and beats the living crap out of Daisuke, ordering him to die, thinking it's just a joke. Talk about crazy. The new message now reads, "Daisuke will be hung to death." Our main protagonist, Nobuaki, decides to go over to Daisuke's house for the night to try to prevent the message from coming to fruition. Pause. Currently, we are in a prime position to beat this game. Not only are we able to learn more about the death mechanic by using Daisuke as a test subject to observe how it occurs, we can also ask him about anyone that was watching him while he was fulfilling his messages. This could lead us closer to the culprit and ultimately ending the game. It's also very beneficial to us to establish ourselves as the good guy. This can get people to trust us and work together in order to complete the game. Nobuaki parties with Daisuke to ease his nerves, then midnight comes. It's now time for the punishment, but the punishment never comes. Weird. They party until dawn and Nobuaki falls asleep. However, when he wakes up, he sees that Daisuke has been hanged. Okay, let's rewind for a bit. This is probably the worst course of action you could have taken. Not only did you leave your eyes off him, meaning you have no idea how the death mechanic works, you are at the scene of the crime, meaning other students might associate you to be the killer. If I were in this situation, I would tie Daisuke up to a heavy object, restricting his movement, and observing how the death mechanic works. I would also be keeping an eye on the surrounding area looking for anything suspicious. Fast forward and the next message is a popularity vote. Students will choose between who will live and who will die. Honestly, if I were in the situation, I'd probably be screwed. I wasn't very popular in school, and if you think that campaigning will change the outcome, just know that your opponent is just as afraid as you and probably has the same idea. They count the votes and it's all tied up at 14-14. Whoever receives the next vote will win. Naoya ends up winning and the punishment gets sent out. Kana runs towards the window, jumps out, and falls face first into the pavement. On to the next game. All the 14 boys in the class gather around and start drawing 1 to 3 sheets from a 100 pile stack of paper. The person who draws the 100th sheet of paper is the loser. Alright, in this type of game, there is a dominant strategy of winning if you properly think about it. Let's lower the amount of numbers we have to count and take a look at a game of counting to 21 between two people, where if the first player says 1 or 2, if he said 2, the second player can say 3 or 4, and so on. All you have to do to find the dominant strategy is to use backwards induction. To win, you need to get them to say 19 or 20. Therefore, if you say 18, you win. To say 18, you need to get them to say 16 or 17. So if you say 15, you win. Continuing on, if you say 12, you win. If you say 9, you win. If you say 6, you win. If you say 3, you win. So, if you go second, you can guarantee that you will say 3 and win every time. Even though the situation has more numbers and players, there will still be a dominant strategy to increase your chances of survival. I'm taking the 24 hours I have before the game to do my research and ask all my math buddies for help. Unlike the main protagonist over here, sulking and questioning whether his actions were right or not. This is a life and death situation. Hesitation is never the answer. On to the game now. Somehow, Mr. Protagonist over here finds himself in a situation where the person before him is able to force Nobuaki to draw the 100th sheet. To make things worse, this guy is furiously in love with Kana, the girl that threw herself out the window. Nobuaki was campaigning for the other student in the last game, and the guy now wants his revenge. But plot armor strikes again for our protagonist, and Akira draws the 100th sheet. He falls to the ground immediately and is pronounced dead at the scene. Okay, this is where I'm freaking out now. Akira just died out of thin air. He was visible to everyone in the class, and no one could understand the reason for his death. My first thought would be that some gadget was put inside all the students in the classroom, activating only when the players lose. I would go straight to the doctor and get my whole body checked up looking for anything suspicious. We later find the reason why Akira drew the 100th sheet. Right before he drew, Akira received a message from Kana, stating that if he died right now, he could be with her forever. Tracing back the message, Nobuaki and his friends might have a clue about who the person who sent the message is. This could lead them closer to the truth, but more importantly, it shows that whoever sent the message wants Nobuaki to stay alive, forcing Akira to commit suicide. On to the next game, where a student is able to give out any orders to himself. Nami, the character that receives this order, does what we now call an epic gamer move and gives out the order to touch the king. Wow, one of the first smart moves I've seen in the series. With this, we are able to find out who the king is. Nami goes around touching everyone in the class one by one until the message that she has touched the king is sent. However, a problem occurs. After she finishes touching everyone, no message is sent. Nami's punishment is to drown herself. To rub salt in the wound, a message appears stating, "P.S. I was actually in the class. To find out my identity, you need a heart of hatred." Who could the king be? However, there is still hope. Nobuaki notices that there was an unsent message in Nami's phone right before she died. He goes around to the families of the dead participants and gets some unexpected news. Another student has already gone around and deleted all the messages off the phones. Based on the description, Nobuaki knows exactly who it is. A new set of messages is sent out. This time, a student, Adachi, must send a text message to 2 of their classmates, which will say, "Go die." Before Adachi is able to decide, he is pushed off the stairs and falls to his death. At school the next day, Nobuaki confronts Ria, a quiet girl who seemed way too calm at the start of the game. She reveals herself to be the person who saved Nobuaki's life and states that her theory is that in order to defeat the king, you need all the syllables from the messages. This girl is friggin' smart. She's a god of gaming, a master hacker, and she thinks logically. I would definitely want to team up with this girl. However, Nobuaki thinks otherwise and talks about how he wants to save everyone. Nobuaki tells the theory to his hacker friend, and his friend thinks he might have a clue about the origin of the game. But before they can get any further, everyone gets sent a message stating, "It's impossible to quit the game. Don't do anything unnecessary. Punishment for breaking rules. Number 28, cardiac arrest. Number 30, suffocation. Number 15, paralysis." Nobuaki calls Shota only to realize that the suffocation punishment has already began. In his dying breath, Shota exclaims, "I blocked it." Putting 2 and 2 together, it's obvious that the reason for these deaths is trying to block the messages. It was seen as an attempt to leave the game. Trying to get other people to stop blocking the king, Nobuaki calls Yusuke only to realize that he hasn't blocked any messages. However, Yusuke is dismembered. Feeling panicked, Nobuaki runs out trying to get others to stop. Alright, this is the last thing I would do. The messages that were just sent clearly stated to not do anything unnecessary. Running around crying for help will surely get you killed. Instead, let's take a better approach of analyzing why people are getting killed. If blocking is just one way of getting killed, then we should call other people and see the similar characteristics leading up to punishment. 2 other punishments are sent, and Nobuaki calls both of them, realizing that the similarities between them were crying. If you cry, you die. What a cruel king. By sending out initial punishments to students who blocked messages, it would lead to many people feeling sad and emotional. But crying will cause you to die, which creates a chain reaction of dead bodies. This is some harsh tactics used by the king, and is definitely emotionally scarring. Those who lived either didn't look at their phones or read the messages and were able to suppress their tears. Feeling hopeless, Nobuaki is about to give up and cry, when all of a sudden he receives a message from his hacker friend, claiming that the game has already been played once, and that he found the location. Before he's able to send the info, however, he realizes that he has received the punishment mail. Realizing his mistake, his hand explodes before he's able to click on the mouse. Getting up from the first explosion, he uses his other hand to send the mail. His other hand then explodes right before he's able to contact Kaori, the girl he likes. His body explodes while the number is being dialed. Wow, Hacker Dude is MVP of the series. He was able to dig out information on another King's game and send the details about the location right before dying. Talk about clutch. Now, let's take a moment and pause to look at the situation to see who is most likely to be the king. While the main protagonist and his friends seem to think it's Ria, I beg to differ. If we are outside looking in, Nobuaki seems like the only plausible explanation. He was the one at the beginning who insisted the King's game was real, the one who tricked people in the popularity vote, the one who killed Akira, and the only person next to Nami when she quote-unquote committed suicide and drowned. Yes, being a leader is a good idea in this game. You can work with other people and create trust between classmates. But to do everything alone while trying to present yourself as a leader is a sure recipe for disaster. Mami, who thinks Nobuaki is king, doesn't believe his advice about not crying and gets her head chopped off. Honestly, this was a pretty dumb death. You should work with whatever information you have. You're not in a situation where you have the luxury to disregard information. Feeling a new wave of determination after the loss of his hacker friend, Nobuaki gets up and heads towards the location of the first King's game. Okay, this is a pretty bad play. Why is this guy going to the location all by himself? Yes, going to the origin is a good idea and you could probably find some useful information. But there are 11 other students in this class. Surely you could have gone with a couple other students in case the situation went south. Also, he doesn't seem to bring any weapons like a knife with him. If I'm entering an unknown area of the last King's game, you bet I'll be geared up for survival. Hitching a ride to the previous location, Nobuaki tells the driver where he wants to go, and all of a sudden, the driver looks shell-shocked. He immediately orders Nobuaki to get off and tells him, "We never met each other, understand?" Red flags are going off, and I'd be pretty worried about entering the location. Nobuaki enters, shocked, to find that this place is a deserted village. But before he is able to catch his breath, he hears rustling and runs inside a house. Inside, he finds documents pertaining to the previous King's game, and finds a lab coat with the name Honda Natsuko. Why is that the same name as Kiami's surname? However, before he's able to think about it, someone sneaks up behind him and knocks him out cold. Alright, this is rookie mistake number I don't even know anymore. Whenever you're entering a room, always be sure to clear every single spot of the room. It helps that you have a flashlight, which means you are able to clear the room from a relatively far distance. After entering the room, I would close the door and look up at the ceiling to see if there were any vents. This is to prevent sneak attacks, as opening doors and breaking vents will give you enough sound cues to react. Back to the present, it's revealed that the person who knocked out Nobuaki is Kaori, Hacker Man's crush. Kaori thinks Nobuaki is the king, so he followed him all the way here and beats the crap out of him. I mean, who could blame her? All the clues were pointing at Nobuaki. This guy was acting like a dunce for the entire game. Nobuaki tries explaining himself and tells her that his hacker friend sent him the details to come here. He then says that the hacker died in the process. Kaori, feeling overwhelmed by the news, starts crying and receives the punishment of suffocation. I mean, again, I feel this was a pretty stupid death, as Nobuaki never warned Kaori about the punishment. The next game begins. From the 9 remaining classmates, one person must roll a die. That person has to choose as many classmates as the die shows. Whoever rolled the die and the people chosen will receive a punishment. Alright, in this game, there will be a minimum of 2 deaths and a maximum of 7 deaths, meaning that the chances of survival are pretty slim if you are the main character. There are only 2 to 3 other classmates that seem to be on good terms with the main character, which improves odds. However, being preservative in this situation will not help your odds in winning. Nobuaki doesn't want any of his friends to throw the die, meaning that the friends won't do him any good. If I were in this situation, I would use one of 2 approaches. One is a friendly approach, where I get on good terms with as many people possible. And the second, or the more guaranteed approach, is to establish dominance and force other people to roll the die through fear. Before I group with everyone, I would make sure to gather a weapon that is lethal, using it only as a last resort. Yeah, it may seem like a dick move, but again, we are trying to increase our chances of survival. Toshiyuki does exactly that and captures Kiemi. He forces Nobuaki or his friend to roll the die. If they don't, Kiemi will be killed. It's cruel, but probably the best option for a guy like Toshiyuki who has no friends. But before Nobuaki is able to grab the die, his friend grabs it first and rolls it. It lands on a 6. The friend has to say 6 names within the span of 10 minutes or else everyone dies. He accidentally says the name Keita when asking a question, and Keita's head falls off. 5 more to go. The friend calls the name of the 3 other girls and they all fall down, dead. Now, we realize that there is a bit of delay between the name call and death, meaning that calling Toshiyuki's name would not be wise with Kiemi hostage. Alright, if I were in this situation, I would quickly ask someone to sneak up on Toshiyuki and free Kiemi from his grasp. Then, I would call Toshiyuki's name. By doing so, the tyrannical leader will be gone, and I will be on the good side of the person who is calling out names. The White Knight hero appears out of nowhere and smacks Toshiyuki, freeing Kiemi. However, instead of wanting to live, he suggests that the friend calls him and Toshiyuki. The friend agrees, and all 3 of them die. Now we are down to 3, Nobuaki, Kiemi, and Ria. We see the light at the end of the tunnel as Ria cracks the code. You need to sacrifice 31 people's lives in order to revive Honda Natsuko. However, she says there is another way to beat the game and figures out the true nature of the king. The king was a virus that has autonomous capabilities and built up a worldwide network. Her plan is to use a bug and kill the king program with an antivirus. Not bad for a master hacker. However, it doesn't work and she receives a punishment of burning to death for trying to interfere with the game. The last order is sent out, stating, "Kill the one you love the most within 5 minutes." Seeing this, Nobuaki and Kiemi both refuse and hold each other for the last 5 minutes until suddenly, Kiemi dies from an open wound that Toshiyuki gave her earlier. Nobuaki, winning the game, is now all alone king of this world. He thinks the game is finally over, but little does he know a new game is about to start. But what did you guys think? Do you think you would be able to survive King's Game? If you did, comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. This is the first How to Beat series I did, and I was inspired by Cinema Summaries to create this type of video. Be sure to check him out, link in the description. This has been Hyacinth, peace.